Dear Simon, just watched Thor Ragnarok last night again, and I know you hate superhero movies, but this film is an absolute masterpiece of filmmaking and entertainment. Absolutely insanely well done blend of just next level humour, heart, action, music, and unique and stunning visuals. Best regards, David. He has been banging on about me seeing this fucking Thor Ragnarok movie. I reply, okay, calm down. I will see the stupid Thor movie. You give me even more grief over this than the fucking Princess Bride. Dear Simon, ha ha ha. If you don't like Thor Ragnarok, you'd literally be the first person I've met who hasn't. Blah, 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 blah. So I watched fucking Thor fucking Ragnarok, whatever. And I just thought, yo, if I'm going to watch fucking Thor Ragnarok, I'm getting paid for that shit. Let's go. Few things to get started. I've seen that Marvel Avengers movie. I feel like the second one out of 17, and there was a giant space opening in the sky, and lots of things were coming through. There was a dude who turned green. Iron Man's in it, who I like. All I know is that I found it super confusing. Now, Davin is the sort of guy who would watch, he likes anything. It's like if there's fucking elves in it or like magic, he'll watch, it could be like a corporate training video for like the Microsoft Corporation. And if they'd put elves in it, Davin would go to the fucking cinema and see it. So look, he's coming in a very different place than from me, who has no desire to see any movie like this. I know Thor has a big hammer because I've seen the movie now, and I would rather have my testicles crushed by said big hammer than watch a Thor movie. This is all me before seeing Thor Ragnarok. So, yes, we'll see how it goes. Also, this movie's 2 hours and 10 minutes long. 2 hours and 10 minutes of my life that I'm risking on this movie, when I could be watching old episodes of Star Trek, to be honest, that I know I will enjoy. So there's this dude called Thor, who for some reason is British, because I think like all Americans, they look at shit that should be set in the past with castles and be like, they all had British accents in the past, right? Not only that, but Thor is really posh. I Wikipedia'd him. It turns out he's Australian. So he's putting that on, which is fine. It's very good and believable, because sometimes you see people with like posh English accents on TV and you're like, no one speaks like that. No one speaks like that. Anyway, the movie starts out and the British Australian not Ragnarok, his name's Thor. Ragnarok I discovered as an event. He's in a cage and there's some devil creature, and the devil creature's like, I will bring about Ragnarok. And Thor's like, no, don't do that, please. I don't want you to bring about Ragnarok. That would really suck. Meanwhile, I'm sitting there being like, what the fuck is Ragnarok? Don't know. Anyway, then he grabs the devil's got some big horn thing that he needs and it gives him his power or something. Thor says like, oh, I thought it was just a giant eyebrow, which is, to be fair, quite amusing. He takes that giant eyebrow, slings it over his back, and he fucks off, and the devil is like, okay, and he doesn't come up until way later in the movie, so we don't have to worry about him. So anyway, Thor's in like what I assume is hell, and then he's like, oh, like beam me up Heimdall. And I'm like, I have no fucking idea who Heimdall is, but he's like communicating with him through his thoughts. He's like, Heimdall, beam me up. Anyway, he gets beamed up by this guy who I assume is Heimdall. He's like this Flash Gordon motherfucker who's also British, but he's like, he speaks a bit like this. He's like the opposite of Thor's accent. So Thor's like this super posh guy, and then you've got this Flash Gordon, also British dude. I'm like, this is a really British movie so far. I'm enjoying it. Anyway, this dude isn't actually Heimdall. He's some dude called Scourge, and I'm like, okay, what's going on? Anyway, there's some play happening, and there's some guy who's dressed up like Thor, and also his brother, who we later find out is this emo kid called Loki. And Loki, he's watching this play, blah, blah, blah. They're all dressed like it's the fucking Renaissance. However, there are giant skyscrapers in the background, but yet no one has a fucking television. I don't understand. This is like that fantasy shit that really bothers me, where it's like, well, how did you make this giant skyscraper, but you haven't cracked television? Or like, I don't know, clothes that are not fucking itchy. So anyway, they're watching this play and they're talking about, I don't know, all this 9 realms and all this other shit that I just don't understand. I'm like, okay, good. I mean, I feel like this play is supposed to be filling in people who've missed the previous 17 movies, but I'm just like, I don't know what's going on. Anyway, it turns out his dad's watching there, like some fucking Julius Caesar, like eating grapes from a little thing. And it turns out that his dad's actually this emo kid called Loki, who we later found out. He's also a posh British guy. And he's actually British, I think, but they sound the same. So credit to the Australian guy. His accent was like, mwah. And it turns out that for some reason this kid was dressing up as his dad, like he had some Mission Impossible 2 Facemaker style, so it was really good, you couldn't tell it was him. And basically, they're like, we have to go to Earth for some reason to find his dad. I think his dad's on Earth or some shit like that. So they travel there, and they're in New York, and all I'm thinking at this point is like, oh my god, thank god we're off the fucking Renaissance wizard planet, because I don't know if I could take 2 hours of Renaissance wizard planet. Little did I know what I was in for throughout the rest of the movie, because unfortunately we spent about 10 fucking minutes on Earth, and then we're back to wizard planet. Oh, I made a note here that my kid was distracting me because I was watching this at home on the weekends, because yay. And I lost a little bit of track of it, but I think they're looking for their dad. I later found out they're brothers, so my note there is confirmed. They are brothers. Australian guy and emo kid are brothers. And then, oh shit, Benedicto Cumberbatch enters the picture, and I'm like, I like that guy. He's really good at acting, and he's also British, weirdly enough, playing an American guy, and I don't know, but his accent was like so good. I'm not American, so I can't tell, but that Benedict Cumberbatch guy has the most syllables in his name and the most acting talent. I don't know, no, this movie's well acted. I have to say, of all the things we'll go, this movie is well acted. Anyway, some shit happens with Cumberbatch they don't really understand, and then Cumberbatch is like, yo, Australian guy and emo kid, you've got to go through this portal, you've got to go to fucking Scotland or Norway or somewhere like that, there's big like cliffs and sea, and you got to find your dad, he's there hanging out. Anyway, they go there, they go through this portal, and their dad is just standing there by the sea, staring out, and he's like, there's no way you fucking know they were coming. So he's just been standing at the sea, staring out, waiting them for years? Decades? I don't know. He's really old. It seems I haven't seen him in a while. Anyway, his dad is like, yo, boys, this Ragnarok thing is coming. And I'm still at this point of the movie like, what the fuck is Ragnarok? What is going on? So there's some shit like that, and he's like, yo, the Ragnarok is brought around by your sister. Later we'll find out that she's basically half reindeer. Is weird. And that she's going to destroy the Asgard planet, which is basically what Ragnarok is. It's when someone destroys Asgard. And so that's really unfortunate for them, because apparently they're both from Asgard. For me, Asgard was something from the Stargate franchise. Anyway, at the end of this scene, the dad's like, I don't know why they went to find him. I don't know why they had to find him to learn this, because they came from their planet to find their dad on Earth, who then tells them that Asgard is going to be destroyed by their sister for some fucking reason. And then their dad turns into fire. He's like, he turns into some fire. And then Thor and Emo Kid, they put on their superhero costumes. Emo Kid somehow looks even more emo-y. Thor looks fucking cool. I'll be straight up, that looks tight. And then basically, at that point, some woman arrives, who we later learn is the half-reindeer sister. She comes through this magical wormhole portal thing where they were hanging out with their dad. And some shit happens. And then basically Thor is like, yo, let's go to Asgard. Bum. They fly up in the air. I don't know where Loki fucked off to at this point. I don't remember. But they get up in this thing, and then she's going there, and she at some point throws him out while they're having a fight in this magical teleportation stream, and he ends up on like garbage collection planet. There's literally seems to be like, in the future we've managed to build these super buildings, and we have all our itchy Renaissance clothes, or like the Asgardian people do. And they're like, they still have to find somewhere to dump all their trash. Anyway, Thor ends up being dumped on the ground. Oh, forgot to mention, she also destroys his magical hammer. So, oh no, his magical hammer's been destroyed. And I thought this hammer was supposed to be like really heavy and sick shit, because he's made like, it's made from a dying star. And I'm like, I like science. I know that dying stars are really heavy. And so I was like Googling how heavy would Thor's hammer be. And oh my god, did the nerds argue about this. There was literally an argument of said, they don't say it was formed from a dying star, they say it was formed in a dying star. Big difference! And I mean, technically true, but then I realized, oh my god, who fucking cares? And I moved on with my life, and I was just like, it's a really heavy hammer. But I'm like, either way, it's fucking heavy. Why is he not sinking into the ground everywhere he goes? I don't get it. Anyway, so he's on this landfill planet, and it's filled with like these landfill cretins who are like, oh, let me eat you. I'm so hungry. And it looks like they're going to attack him and eat him, but they're all clearly just starving peasants. And anyway, this woman comes along, and she's like, leave him the fuck alone. And they're like, what are you going to do about it? We're so hungry. And then she basically commits fucking war crimes on them. She's got this like magical suit that links her to a giant spacecraft which she landed in behind her, and she's like, and like fucking 100 peasants she just kills. And I'm like watching this movie, and I'm like, I'm fairly sure she's going to be the good guy. Later proved right. They like team up and they fight all this shit together. It is what it is. And I'm like, all of these people, yeah, they wanted to eat him, but it's because they're stuck on this fucking garbage planet, and they're just so hungry that they've resorted to cannibalism, and you just come and fucking incinerate them all. And I'm like, and you're supposed to be the good guy? You just committed a horrible war crime. And so while this woman, she does actually end up being the good guy, spoiler alert, she captures Thor. Anyway, Thor's been all captured, and he actually says at some point, "Do you know who my dad is?" And I'm like, I get that his dad's like Odin or some shit from like mythology that I don't care about, but it did feel a bit cringe. Anyway, then we cut to another scene where the emo woman who was fighting, the sister emo reindeer woman, she's also weird. She's like Loki. They're kind of like emo together. Thor's their like non-emo sibling, so I don't know why him and Loki are tight, but the sister's rejected. Anyway, she's gone to like Asgard, and so she arrives and everyone's like, "Who the fuck are you?" And she's like, "Don't you know who I am?" And it's another cringe moment. I mean, I feel like this whole like Thor and the reindeer woman and emo Loki, they're all kind of very entitled. They're all like, "Do you know who my dad is? Do you not know who I am? You fucking peasant." Anyway, she gets into a big fight. She kills a bunch of people. We know she's the bad guy. She's clearly being set up as the bad guy. But yet, what she does is she fights other people who are fighting her. It felt way less war crimey than the woman who killed all the peasants on the trash planet. Anyway, whatever. Like, there's a 2-minute fucking fight scene. Blah, blah, blah. There's swords and shit. And then the reindeer woman is now in charge of Asgard planet. Anyway, then we cut back to where Thor is on what I thought was the trash planet, but I think it's actually some like other, like they were just on like a trash heap on a planet. And I'm like, how could you not fix this? Come on, it's supposed to be like the magical realm. Fuck. Anyway, so he's been captured. He was taken by this woman, and they end up at Jeff Goldblum's house. And Jeff Goldblum is like, he's like a fabulous version of himself, and he's looking good. He looks so young. He looks so young. I know this movie's like 5 years old, but Jeff Goldblum looks good. He was like middle-aged in Jurassic Park. I was like 3 when that movie came out. 1991, right? Maybe 93. Oh, I was young. Anyway, so they're at fabulous Jeff Goldblum's house, also fabulously acted by Jeff Goldblum. He also turns out to be a war criminal. It turns out this is the, like, planet of war criminals because he turns a guy to slime with a giant stick for, like, disobeying him or some shit like that. Anyway, then we cut to, like, another scene where fabulous Jeff Goldblum has gone from turning someone with a stick into, like, goo, and now fabulous Jeff Goldblum is a DJ, and also fucking emo Loki's there somehow. I have no idea how. I probably got distracted by my kid, but they're there together. And basically, emo Loki fills Thor in and is like, "Yo, Thor, all you have to do to get out of here is you have to fight one of his champions." And I'm like, what is this, some Raid Shadow Legends shit? In order to get out of there, Thor has to fight, like, some sort of monsters. Who cares? They put Thor in some sort of weird magical prison where he meets some other weird magical dudes who kind of play like a B plot to the whole movie, which I'm not even going to mention because no one cares about, but it is slightly amusing. Anyway, so Thor's like, "What's up, bitches? I got to fight this guy." And they're like, "Oh, you're not going to fight this guy." And I mean, obviously he's going to fight the guy and he's going to win because that's going to advance the story. This movie is a touch predictable. All right, and then we get to this big fight scene, and Thor is fighting this dude who looks like he's straight out of Raid Shadow Legends. I'm not even joking. It turns out later he's the Hulk, and he was in the Avengers movie, and he's also like in this Hulk form, but I know he can be smaller as some sort of like mild-mannered doctor or some shit like that, because I remember that from that one Avengers movie I saw. But for some reason, he's also on the magic planet, and at this point I'm like, why can't we be doing this on Earth? Isn't he supposed to be on Earth? He's just a regular human scientist with the green stuff. Come on. But anyway, they're in this big fight and it goes on for fucking ever, and Hulk is winning most of the time, and then Thor manages to get some like sparky electricity or some shit, and he's about to win, and then fabulous Jeff Goldblum is like, and he turns him off with some device that he's put in his neck so he can like rig the fights or whatever to make it more entertaining for himself or make himself like seem more powerful or whatever. Nobody cares. Anyway, afterwards, for some reason, Thor and Hulk, even though they were just fighting each other, they're put in the same room together and they're having a chat about some shit, and Thor is like, "I've got to go to Asgard to prevent the ragnarok," and I think Hulk is like, "Yo, bro, I'll come with you," or something like that. Eventually they come around, and it's like, obviously they're building this team, and you can already tell that Loki's gonna be a part of it, and also the war crime woman, she's gonna be a part of it. They're all gonna fuck off to Asgard and do some like, there's gonna be a long drawn out battle scene. You can just feel it, and I'm like, there's gonna be stuff I don't enjoy, like swords and zombies and all of that nonsense. Now at this point in the movie, I will admit that I wanted to get on with my day, so I started watching it at 2 speed because I just wasn't enjoying it that much. But I also wanted to finish this video because if I ended it here, it would be very unsatisfying. And like I said, if I was going to watch this movie, I was going to get paid for it. That's right. So anyway, and then extremely predictably, at this point in the movie, the war crime woman shows up and they all have a chat together and she's like, oh, I won't join you. And Thor's like, you will join me. And she's like, I don't want to. And eventually, of course, blah, 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 blah. They will join forces. Woo! So they all escape from their like pseudo prison thing and they're like running amok and they're like, yo, peasants, you should all start a revolution against fabulous Jeff Goldblum. And at this point, we have my favorite line and moment in the entire movie, not even sarcastically. They go to like Jeff Goldblum and he's in his like, he's got his like melting stick that he uses to melt people. And his like assistant is like goes, oh no, sorry, his assistant was holding the melting stick and Jeff Goldblum's just standing there. And the assistant like goes to hand him the melting stick. And Jeff Goldblum's like, what? He just interrupted me. That is not a capital offense. Jeff Goldblum's brilliance in this movie shine through. Well acted, brilliantly acted in a movie full of good acting. And now because we get towards the like climactic bit of the movie, it's actually going to be really a lot shorter from me adding comments because there's a lot of like fighting scenes that I don't really care about. And I'm not, I might have skipped forward a little bit on the fighting scenes just to be like, I don't need to see this long space battle with one-liners. It's like fairly boring. So yeah, they escape the planet. Like there's an uprising because of course there is. Somehow magically that manages to happen in basically no amount of time. All of the team of good guys, including Loki somehow. Oh, but Loki... So they're doing this revolution against fabulous Jeff Goldblum. Oh, and then there's a point, like this just seemed like a totally throwaway thing that I didn't really understand. But Loki betrays them for some reason because Loki really doesn't like his brother. But he betrays them on behalf of like Jeff Goldblum or some shit. Not because of like reindeer woman who you thought like he'd want to take over Asgard with her or some shit. I felt, or maybe he did. Who knows? I guess I didn't care enough to pay attention. But he's like, I betrayed you, brother. And then Thor is like, dude, he just destroys him and like it takes a minute and then they get on the space and then Thor's like gets on the spacecraft with his crew and they're like flying away and there's this space battle like boo boo boo, 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 boo. They got to get to this wormhole in the sky to get over to Asgard and there's a brilliant again Jeff Goldblum's not even in the moment. They're in this spacecraft and one of the characters says to the other one like who's rolling around in the back and it's like, oh, be careful back there, this was his orgy ship. It's like that's just the spaceship that Jeff Goldblum used for orgies and I was just like, that is just mwah. Oh, and they're jumping from ship to ship, like literally, like there's, I think the Thor guy's like bong, 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 and jumping from ship to ship and smashing up the enemies. And I'm like, just complete disregard for the laws of physics. It was entertaining, but utter bullshit. And then eventually they get into this giant, like upside down wormhole in the sky, and they're like, in there, and then they're at Asgard, and the reindeer woman is fucking all sorts of shit up. There's like a refugee crisis. She's taking it over, but she doesn't want any of the people there, or they're all fleeing. It's like some horrible situation. I mean, there's a lot of war crimes in this movie, to be honest. The International Criminal Court would have a field day with this shit. Thor and his sister have a fight. Again, this is one of those long, drawn-out things where it's like, okay, they're having a fight. Who cares? They have a fight. Refugees are escaping on this bridge. There's a giant-ass dog which wants to stop them. Loki turns up. He's a good guy in the end, and he flies down on some spaceship, and he's like, I will rescue the refugees. Get into my spacecraft. And they all get into the spacecraft, or they're trying to. There's some other fighting on the bridge. There's that big dogs that I mentioned. Thor fucks up the big dogs. Not Thor. The green dude. Hulk fucks up the dog somehow. It's all fine. Everything's great. They got onto the ship. And then we get to another favorite part of this movie. Now, remember that email that Davin sent? He was like, the music's great. And I'm like, okay, so there's the like classical music soundtrack in the background, which I didn't feel was particularly, I don't remember anything about it. It wasn't really a thing for me. At the beginning, they had an AC/DC song, and that just got me so excited. I was like, this is going to be like Iron Man. This is going to be like Guardians of the Galaxy. It's going to have a sick soundtrack. Nope, they just had that one AC/DC song at the beginning, and then they play it again at the end where they have this big battle. There's the refugees, there's like Thor versus Reindeer Woman. At some point, Loki sneaks off, he goes underground, and he grabs that weird big mustache thing that, do you remember the bad guy that the devil had at the beginning? And he somehow uses that to activate the devil or some weird shit like that. Then the devil comes out and he's fucking massive, like he's towering over the whole Asgard city, and he's like, I'm gonna destroy it, yes! He's like proper Hulk, and the reindeer woman's down there, but Thor and his crew and all of the refugees. Also, I don't understand, like this was a giant city. There were many skyscrapers. In fact, Asgard is a whole planet. And it's like, wait, but this guy is destroying this planet, and all of the refugees, every single resident of this absolutely massive city is somehow on this tiny spacecraft which escapes Asgard. It must have some like Harry Potter tent shit in there, because it's escaping Asgard. And then the devil dude destroys this entire Asgard planet, along with reindeer women. And Thor's like, he says some cheesy shit like, it's not about the planet. It's not about... Asgard isn't a place. It's wherever we are. It's the place where we all are, or some shit like that. I'm totally butchering, but you get my meaning. It's extremely corny, and the movie fucking ends. And I get my life back. This movie is fine, I think. I was super disappointed about the soundtrack. I just remembered how much that hurt my feelings. It was fine. It was a super predictable superhero movie with some action sequences that I like action sequences in, like Mission Impossible, James Bond, even those Jack Reacher movies, Jason Bourne, where it's like realistic. I mean, obviously it's not realistic. Those guys are all basically superheroes, but it's more realistic than like giant dogs and a giant devil man and a green beast and a magical spaceship with 1,000 little, millions of people on it somehow. It's fine. It's fine. I wouldn't watch it again. I would rather have my time back. I can see why people enjoy this movie. Do I think it is a brilliant movie? No. Do I think it's very well acted? Yes. I enjoyed that. I believed these characters. I enjoyed them. It was fun. Benedict Cumberbatch was nice to see, briefly. Jeff Goldblum was absolutely the highlight of the movie for me, but everyone was really good. I did find, like, the war crime shit a bit surprising. Like, why are we teaming up with the woman who kills the peasants? She seems like a bad person. I didn't really understand a lot of the character motivations, but I figured that's because I haven't seen a lot of these movies. So overall, fine.